beer, it's good for you.
Hello and welcome to the video. Here I am sharing the second of my low calorie carbs and ABV beers, and this time it's for fans of darker beers. So here's a rich, flavourful Baltic Stout that works great for the summer but also for the winter too, making it an all seasons beer. Along with sharing my full recipe, I'm also sharing my methods and plenty of hints and tips from A to Z of the process, and we'll finish up with a look at the final beer along with my tasting notes. So let's get started. Low-calorie carbs and ABV beers are becoming super popular because they deliver great flavour without the weight gain, guilt or too much alcohol. This makes them ideal for when you want a beer, but without any added baggage or effects usually associated. My recipe that is being shared as part of this guide video offers a 3.3% ABV beer at just 78 calories and 3.5 grams of carbs for a 12 ounce or 355 milliliter serving. In contrast, my own Guinness Clone Evolution recipe, which offers 5.6% ABV, delivers 192 calories and over 19 grams of carbs at the same serving volume. So this recipe offers a 59% reduction in calories and a whopping 81.58 reduction in carbs, along with more than a 41% reduction in alcohol. Let's now take a look at this recipe's vital statistics. As you can see, the recipe offers an approximate ABV of 3.3%, making it an easy session beer. The BU-GU ratio, shown almost at the bottom here, shows the relationship between bitterness and alcohol at 0.46, which gives this beer a very easy drinking balance, which adds to its drinkability. We have a final gravity of 1000, meaning that this one finishes rather dry, which is great for cleansing your palate, meaning that this beer will pair great with a whole range of different foods and snacks. My recipe can be found in full within this video's description area on YouTube, which is underneath the video window when viewed on a desktop computer. You will also find a link there to the full recipe on Brewfather, which can be used free of charge with some restrictions. As the best starting point, I strongly suggest that you fully convert the recipe before ordering in your ingredients so that you're actually brewing the recipe as intended. I also strongly suggest that you brew this recipe as is the very first time rather than tweaking it, as tweaks are already in place to bring this recipe into very good shape. I have an easy guide to recipe conversion using Brewfather on my channel as shown on screen now. Within this video, this recipe is being brewed using a Grainfather G40 to the volume of 10 litres or 2.64 US liquid gallons, but as part of your conversion process this can be scaled and shaped to meet your own brewing system and volume requirements. Shown on screen now is the water profile that I recommend for using with this recipe. This is the one that I've been using throughout this recipe's development. This Dublin profile is one that I feel works so well that it has long become my default water profile for stouts. This profile, coupled with a mash pH of between 5.2 to 5.6, provides great balance for this beer, but naturally feel free to use your own personal favourite profile if different, along with your own mash pH balance. Personally, I aim for a higher pH, usually in the 5.5 to 5.6 range for these types of beers. Using the right water profile is very important, of course. After all, beer is mostly water and its balance is vital so that it suits the beer that you are brewing. Brewfather has very good documentation on how to use the software to make the necessary water changes too. This makes the whole process very easy, so as such I suggest that all brewers, irrespective of experience, start treating their water as soon as possible for the very best of end results. You may well be surprised how easy this actually is. Let's now get into the actual brew, and this starts by preheating your mash water to your first mash step's temperature and then adding your grain. You will then come to the stage of mash preparation that you can see me performing now. Here I am using the Kegland mash mixer along with a drill to make light work of mixing this mash. Naturally, you can still take the more traditional approach here and use a mash paddle and manually stir in the grain, ensuring that there are no grain clumps and that every grain is wet. Take your time on this process because any compromise at this point will impact the rest of your brew. On screen you can now see the mash schedule for this one by mashing at this mid-range temperature both beta amylase, which produces more fermentable sugars, and alpha amylase, which creates less fermentable dextrinous sugars, are active. The result is a balanced beer with good fermentability and moderate body. This popular schedule produces a crisper, drier beer with a decent alcohol yield, making it a common choice for many styles. Let's now move on to the actual mash itself and look at the grain bin involved here. First of all, we have Otter Malt at 86% of our grist. This malt will provide the bulk of our fermentables and can be subbed with pale ale malt if you simply cannot obtain Maris Otter. However, this would be a great pity, as Maris Otter offers an extra depth of flavour not found in pale ale malt, which provides background flavours that are rich, biscuity, slightly nutty and fuller in flavour, which really do enhance this recipe. Then at 7% we have flaked barley, which is a key ingredient to any stout, as it adds in a slightly grainy bready flavour that can be on the toasty side, which complements roasted malts that are also commonly found in stout recipes. Rich in beta-glucans, it also provides stouts with a thicker, longer-lasting head that is a trademark of the style. Then with the final 7% for this grain bill we have Carafa Special III, which is a dehusked chocolate malt sold by Weyermann. If you cannot obtain the Weyermann version, then seek a different maltster alternative. This roasted malt provides the deep dark colouring along with rich chocolate, coffee and mild roasted notes without any astringent, burnt or overly bitter flavours that husked dark malts can produce. The dehusked nature of this chocolate malt is essential for this recipe, which helps create a more smooth and balanced stout. After the mash comes the sparge. I highly recommend that you use sparge in general, but I recommend it even more so for beers like this one where malt flavour is going to be lower due to the reduced grain bill. Be sure to sparge evenly, covering the entire brain bed to wash through those sugars and flavours. Like you see here, some of the finer parts of your grain bill may make it to the top of your mash plate. This is of absolutely no concern, just sparge as usual. Straight after the sparge we then ramp up for the boil, and our first job is to stir in the protein found on top before starting our boil timer or adding any hops. As you can see, I'm using the modern boil time of 30 minutes here, and that we have just one hop addition with East Kent Golding as hops for bittering for balance. Let's now take a look at what we can expect from East Kent Golding hops within this recipe. Let's now look at the East Kent Golding's profile from within the hop control software. You can see from this aroma wheel that East Kent Goldings offers relatively high levels of herbal and floral elements, as well as lower levels of citrus, earthy, lavender, honey, lemon, thyme, orange and floral notes are also mentioned. However, as with all European hops, these elements are subtle compared to hops from regions like the USA, New Zealand and Australia. Furthermore, within a powerfully flavoured grain bill like this one, the elements of East Kent Goldings are going to be much further in the background, which for a stout style is totally the intention. So within this recipe you can expect East Kent Goldings to enhance the malty richness with its earthy and floral tones. They will also provide a balanced bitterness that doesn't overshadow the roasted chocolate and coffee flavours. Furthermore, they will add complexity through gentle spice and herbal undertones. Overall, East Kent Goldings are an excellent choice for a stout, as they will emphasise harmony and subtlety in the beer's flavour profile. You are likely going to find that East Kent Goldings hops are easy to obtain worldwide, but if you find them difficult to obtain, then other types of Goldings hops will work just fine, as will Funkel's hops. Towards the end of the boil, I move some of the boiling hot water through my counterflow chiller to sanitize it, ready for cooling and transfer. During this time I also spray some sanitizer into my fermentation vessel. I recommend to sanitize the fermentation vessel as close to the time of beer transfer as possible, as this minimizes the risk of contamination. This is because the sanitizer has a limited effective duration, and we really need it to work its magic in preventing microbial growth. Keep in mind that bacteria, wild yeast and mold spores can be present in the air unless you have an air purifier at work at all times in your brewing area, and, of course, can settle inside the vessel. If your fermentation vessel has a racking arm like this one, then ensure that you fill the vessel past this with sanitizer so that it gets protected too. Once all was done and ready, I then transferred the cooled water into my fermentation vessel via my counterflow chiller. When it comes to yeast choice for this recipe, I strongly suggest using a lager yeast in keeping with the style. Lollermann's Nova Lager or Fermentis 3470 will provide both a clean and crisp flavour, and both of these are very temperature tolerant, making it a very easy fermentation. However, my yeast of choice is Safbrew LD20 because not only does it contain a temperature tolerant clean and crisp lager yeast, but it also gives the extra ingredient that is needed at this stage, which is the enzyme glucoamylase. So if you plan on using a different type of yeast, then you will need to obtain the glucoamylase separately, which should be very easy to obtain though at any good homebrew store. Whichever way you go, this enzyme will break down complex sugars created in the mash into more simple, easily fermented ones, allowing for a true dry beer that will finish at terminal gravity, which is around 1000 Sg. This removes all excess sugar, helping to reduce the calories further. In terms of fermentation temperature for LD20, I have had very good clean results at 20 degrees Celsius, which is 68 degrees Fahrenheit. This is actually the highest point of the recommended temperature range for fermentation for this yeast. Let's now take a look at the finished beer, starting with the pour, and I will then go through my tasting notes. You can see that the pour is a medium brown in colour, but once in the glass the end beer is mostly black with some deep brown hues. This beer is being poured using the Carbonation Stout spout and has been under 12 psi of pressure, which is 0.83 bars, and I'm also using this pressure for serving too. This example you see here is at around the 4-week point from kegging and has conditioned flavour wise rather well in this time. However, I do often find that it peaks at around the 6 or 8 week point, or beyond, like many other types of stout in fact. In particular with low ABV beers, they can taste more watery earlier on, before all of the flavours separate and come into their own. This beer certainly benefits from the use of Carbonation Stout spout, which I use for all stouts and porters in fact, and if you want to enhance the flavour further and you're kegging, then I suggest adding in some extra carbonation by adding a small amount each time until you are happier. With this beer I have stored it in a keg within my kegerator at about 7 degrees Celsius or approximately 44 degrees Fahrenheit. But when I serve it, I let it stand for at least a few minutes before actually diving in for tasting. This is because I find that this style is best for my taste buds at a slightly higher temperature for all of the flavours to be enjoyed. However, we all do taste a little differently though, so do your own testing here for sure. Let's now go through my tasting notes, starting with aroma. The aroma found here is distinctly malty with low levels of coffee and chocolate. Flavour. Very easy entry through a creamy head that balances the dry nature of this beer as you enter an easy malty profile of flavours that finishes with low levels of chocolate and coffee. The flavours here are not as deep and pronounced as a stronger stout of course, but they certainly hold their own. And here are some notes. Despite this beer's low alcohol content, it does greatly benefit from at least 6 weeks worth of conditioning for its flavours to properly separate and for it to taste less watery. I greatly recommend using a stout spout or similar to obtain the much desired creamy head. I also suggest experimenting with a higher carbonation level than you would usually use, as this will improve this beer's flavour further. My final impression is that this is a very easy drinking stout that offers low alcohol, calories and carbs without too much sacrifice in the taste department. Due to the nature of the style, this is also very suitable for enjoyment during the summer and the winter too. So there you have it. I do hope that you enjoyed this video. Do let me know. I would especially love to hear from you if you do decide to brew this one, and then I would really appreciate your tasting notes and thoughts via the comments section of this video. Be sure to include the beer's age and anything else that you feel is relevant. But most of all, enjoy. I do hope that you found this video useful, informative and interesting. If so, why not consider liking and subscribing? For further support you can join the channel's Facebook group, and if you would like to support the channel then check out the channel's merchandise store, as all profits go back into the channel. Until next time, happy brewing!